Maya Chen sat at the far end of the conference table. She was a small woman with dark hair and quiet eyes. She had worked on Orbital Station Valeth 9 for 2 years now. In all that time, she had never raised her voice. Not once. The station was home to over 40,000 beings from dozens of different species. It floated in the darkness of space like a small city made of metal and light. Aliens of all shapes and sizes lived and worked there together. Maya was one of only a few hundred humans on the entire station. Today, like most days, nobody was looking at her. "The cargo schedule needs to change," the Torvin supervisor said loudly. His name was Voroth. He was tall and broad, with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. The Torvin were known across the galaxy for their strength and their loud voices. "We will move the shipments to morning cycles. This is my decision." Maya raised her hand slightly. "Actually, if we check the decision is made," Voroth said, not even glancing at her. He continued talking to the others as if she had never spoken. "A Kithrin." Woman sitting nearby leaned toward her colleague and whispered just loud enough for Maya to hear. "Why did Earth send us their weakest specimen? This one barely speaks." Maya lowered her hand. Her face showed nothing. She wrote something in her notebook and stayed silent for the rest of the meeting. This was normal for her. This was every day. The Kithrins were tall and elegant beings with silver skin and large dark eyes. They valued intelligence and sharp words. To them, someone who did not speak was someone who had nothing worth saying. The Torvin valued strength and dominance. To them, a quiet person was a weak person. Most galactic species were the same. They respected those who were loud, confident, and bold. Maya was none of these things. After the meeting, she ate lunch alone in a corner of the station's food court. She watched the crowds move around her. Families from different worlds sharing meals. Merchants arguing about prices. Children of species she had never seen before running and playing together. Nobody sat with her. Nobody waved. A few looked at her and then looked away, as if she was not worth noticing. She did not seem to mind. Or if she did, she never showed it. Some humans on the station had learned to adapt. They became louder. They pushed themselves into conversations. They tried to act more like the dominant species around them. Those humans had friends. They got promotions. They were respected. Maya did not change. She remained exactly who she was. In the afternoon, she saw a small Valorian child wandering alone in the cargo section. The child was crying. His parents were nowhere to be seen. Most workers walked past without stopping. They were busy. They did not have time for lost children. Maya stopped. She knelt down slowly so she would not scare the child. She spoke softly in the Valorian language, asking his name and where his family might be. The child looked at her with wet eyes. He told her his mother worked in the medical bay. Maya took his small hand in hers. She walked with him all the way across the station. It took nearly an hour. She delivered him safely to his mother, who thanked her with tears of relief. Maya simply nodded and walked away. She did not ask for thanks. She did not tell anyone what she had done. Later that evening, she passed an elderly Morthian worker sitting alone outside the food distribution center. The old alien looked tired and hungry. His species did not receive the same rations as others. It was an unfair system, but nobody seemed to care enough to fix it. Maya stopped. She took her own meal pack from her bag. She placed it gently in the old worker's hands. Then she walked away before he could thank her. These small kindnesses happened every day. Nobody noticed them. Nobody kept track. Maya did not want them to. In her small quarters that night, Maya sat on her bed. The room was simple and empty. No decorations. No photographs on the walls. Nothing personal at all except for one small picture frame sitting face down on her desk. She never looked at it. But she never threw it away either. She had scars on her arms and her back. She always wore long sleeves to cover them. Sometimes when there was a loud noise or a sudden movement, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or memory. But it always disappeared quickly. She controlled it. She pushed it down. Whatever had happened to her before she came to this station, she kept it buried deep inside, at exactly midnight. The alarms began. Red lights flashed across every corridor of the station. A terrible sound filled the air. Emergency warnings echoed from every speaker in every language. Maya sat up in her bed instantly. Her eyes were wide open. Her body was completely still. "Attention all residents," the station's computer announced. 3 unidentified vessels have breached the outer defense grid. Security protocols are now active. All civilians must proceed to designated safe zones immediately. Maya stood up slowly. She walked to her door and looked out into the corridor. People were running, screaming, panicking. Aliens of every species pushed past each other. Trying to reach safety, she heard the words that made her blood run cold. "It's the Crimson Tide," someone shouted. "The Raiders are here." The Crimson Tide. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. They were raiders who attacked stations and ships. They took prisoners for slavery. They killed everyone else. They left no witnesses, no survivors. Maya's expression changed. The fear that had flickered in her eyes disappeared. Something else took its place. Something cold. Something focused. Her shoulders straightened. Her breathing became slow and steady. Her hands stopped trembling. She did not run toward the safe zones. She moved in the opposite direction, toward the sounds of weapons fire, toward the screaming, toward the danger. People pushed past her, running away. They did not notice the small, quiet human walking calmly into the darkness. Nobody noticed Maya Chin. They never did. But tonight, everything was about to change. She moved toward the danger while everyone else ran from it. The shy girl they overlooked until her combat footage went public. Part to the station shook as explosions ripped through the outer docking ports. Smoke filled the corridors. Emergency lights painted everything in red. The screams of frightened people echoed from every direction. Maya moved through the chaos like water flowing through stones. She did not run. She did not panic. Her steps were careful and measured. Her eyes scanned every shadow, every doorway, every corner. She reached an emergency supply locker near the cargo section. Without hesitation, she broke the security seal. Her fingers moved with speed and practice, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. She pulled out a small medical kit and strapped it to her belt. She found a communication device and attached it to her ear. A group of aliens ran past her. One of them stopped and stared. It was a young Torvan male. He recognized her from the logistics department. "What are you doing?" he asked. "The safe zones are the other way." Maya did not answer. She finished gathering her supplies and moved deeper into the station. The young Torvan watched her go. His mouth hung open in confusion. The quiet human woman who never spoke was walking directly toward the raiders. It made no sense, but he did not follow her. He ran toward safety instead. Maya followed the sounds of screaming. They led her down into the cargo section of the station. This area was a maze of massive storage containers and loading equipment. It was the perfect place for raiders to trap victims. It was also the perfect place to hide. She found them in Cargo Bay 7, 12 aliens huddled together behind a wall of shipping containers. They had barricaded themselves inside, but the door was weak. It would not hold for long. Maya could already hear the raiders on the other side, trying to cut through. She climbed over the barricade and dropped down among the survivors. They screamed when they saw her. Then they recognized her face, and their fear turned to confusion. "The human from logistics?" Someone whispered. "What is she doing here?" Maya looked at the group quickly. For children, 3 elderly, 5 adults who looked too scared to fight. She recognized some of them. The Torvan supervisor Vorath was there. His forearms were wrapped around 2 small alien children, protecting them. His eyes were wide with terror. A Kithran woman was there too. Maya remembered her from the meeting, the one who had called her the weakest specimen. "We need to move," Maya said. Her voice was calm and clear. It was the most words any of them had ever heard her speak at once. "Move where?" Vorath asked. His voice was shaking. They are cutting through the door. There is no way out. Maya walked to the other side of the bay. She examined the walls, the vents, the emergency systems. Her mind was working fast, calculating distances and angles and possibilities. There is a maintenance shaft behind those containers, she said. It leads to the upper levels. We can escape through there. The Kithran woman laughed bitterly. And how do you know that? You are just a cargo worker. You barely speak. Why should we listen to you? Maya did not argue. She did not try to convince them with words. Instead, she began moving the containers herself. She pushed them aside one by one, clearing a path to the maintenance shaft hidden in the wall. The aliens watched in silence. They had never seen her move with such purpose. Such strength. Such certainty. The door behind them groaned. The raiders were almost through. Everyone into the shaft, Maya said. Children first, then elderly. Adults last. This time no one argued. They began climbing into the narrow passage one by one. Vorath lifted the children up and helped them. Inside, the Kithran woman went next. Then the elderly. Soon only Vorath and Maya remained. The door burst open. 8 raiders poured into the cargo bay. They were tall and heavily armed. Their armor was painted red and black. Their faces were hidden behind metal masks. The Crimson Tide had found their prey, Maya said to Vorath. Get them to safety. What about you? He asked. Maya reached down and picked up a metal pipe from the floor. It was the only weapon she could find. Someone has to slow them down, she said. Vorath stared at her. This was the woman he had ignored for 2 years. The woman he had talked over in meetings. The woman he had dismissed as weak and useless. She was standing between him and 8. Armed raiders with nothing but a metal pipe in her hands. I was wrong about you, he whispered. Maybe, Maya said. Now go. He climbed into the shaft and disappeared. Maya turned to face the raiders. They had stopped moving. They were looking at her with confusion. One small human woman, standing alone against all of them. It was so strange that it made them pause. Step aside, human, the lead raider said. We want the others. You can live if you do not fight. Maya did not step aside. There are children behind me, she said quietly. I am not moving. The raider laughed. Then you will die for nothing. Maya's grip tightened on the pipe. Her breathing was slow and steady. Her eyes showed no fear. Maybe, she said again, but I will not die for nothing. I will die for them. There is a difference. The raiders charged forward. Maya moved to meet them. She had no weapon except a metal pipe. She had no armor. She was outnumbered 8-1. Every part of logic said she should run. Every part of reason said she could not win. But Maya was not thinking about winning. She was thinking about the 12 lives climbing to safety behind her. The 4 children who deserved to grow up. The elderly who deserved to live their final years in peace. The frightened people who deserved a chance to see tomorrow. She was thinking about all the times she had been invisible. All the times she had been ignored. All the times people had looked past her as if she did not exist. Tonight, she would make sure they could not look away. She had no weapon, no armor, and no fear. What she had was 12 lives standing behind her, and that was enough. The shy girl they overlooked until her combat footage went public. Part 3, the security cameras in Cargo Bay 7 were damaged, but they were still recording. Their lenses captured everything that happened next. Every movement. Every second. Every moment of what Maya Chen did to protect 12 strangers who had never shown her. Kindness, the first raider reached her with a weapon raised high. Maya did not try to block the attack. Instead, she moved to the side at the last moment. The raider's momentum carried him forward. Maya struck his knee with the metal pipe. Fell. She took his weapon before he could recover. She did not use it to kill him. She struck his helmet hard enough to knock him unconscious. Then moved to the next threat. The cameras recorded everything. They showed a small, human woman moving between enemies like a ghost. She used the cargo containers for cover. She used the low-gravity zones near the ceiling to gain advantage. She used the emergency systems to create distractions and confusion. She fought like someone who had done this before. Many times, too many times, but there was something strange about the way she fought. She was not trying to defeat the raiders. She was not trying to win. Every movement she made was designed to pull the enemies away from the maintenance shaft, away from the civilians, away from the children. She was not fighting for victory. She was fighting for time. The cameras showed her taking hits that were meant for others. When a raider threw an explosive device toward the shaft entrance, Maya threw herself in front of it. The blast sent her flying backward. She hit the wall hard. Blood appeared on her face. She got up. She kept fighting. Another raider fired at the shaft entrance. Maya ran directly into the line of fire. The blast hit her shoulder. She spun around from the impact. Her arm hung loosely at her side. She did not scream. She did not cry out. She kept moving forward. The cameras captured the expression on her face. It was not rage. It was not hatred. It was not bloodlust. It was something else entirely. Something that looked like determination mixed with deep, old sadness. She was not enjoying this. She was enduring it. One raider tried to surrender. He dropped his weapon and raised his hands. Maya stopped her attack immediately. She pointed toward the exit and let him run. She could have finished him. She chose not to. The fight seemed to last forever. In reality, it was only 12 minutes. 12 minutes that changed everything. When station security finally cut through the cargo bay doors, Bill found Maya still standing. Barely, she was surrounded by 6 unconscious raiders. 2 more had fled into the darkness. She had 3 serious wounds. Her left arm was burned and broken. Her side was bleeding heavily. Her face was covered in blood from a cut on her forehead, but she was still on her feet, still standing between the raiders and the maintenance shaft, still protecting the entrance even though the fight was over. The security officers stared at her in shock. "The civilians," Maya said. Her voice was weak but steady. "In the shaft. 12 of them. For children. Are they safe?" The lead officer checked his communication device. "They made it to the upper levels. They are in the medical bay now. All 12 are alive and unharmed." Aya nodded slowly. The tension left her body. Her shoulders dropped. Her legs began to shake. "Good," she whispered. "That is good." Then she collapsed. Vorath pushed through the security officers. He had come back with the rescue team. He caught Maya before she hit the ground. His 4 arms held her gently, like she was made of glass. "Medical team." He shouted, "Get the medical team now." He looked down at the small human woman in his arms. She was so light, so fragile, so completely destroyed by the battle she had just fought alone. He asked. His voice was breaking. "Why did you do this? We were never kind to you. We ignored you. We mocked you. We treated you like you were nothing." Maya's eyes opened slightly. She looked up at him with a weak smile. "That was never the point," she said softly. Her eyes closed. Her body went limp. The medical team arrived and took her away. Vorath stood there for a long time, staring at the blood on his hands. Her blood. The blood she had spilled for people who had treated her like she did not exist. A young security officer approached him carefully. "Sir, the cameras? They recorded everything." Vorath looked at the damaged security cameras on the walls. Their red lights were still blinking. "Save the footage," he said quietly. "All of it, sir." "What should I do with it?" Vorath thought about all the times he had talked over Maya in meetings. All the times he had dismissed her ideas without listening. All the times he had assumed she was weak because she did not shout like he did. He thought about how she had stood, lone against 8 armed raiders with nothing but a metal pipe. How she had taken wounds that were meant for others. How she had let a surrendering enemy go free, even though she had every reason to hate him. He thought about the look on her face when she asked if the children were safe. The relief in her eyes, the way her body only let go after she knew they had survived. "Send it everywhere," he said finally. "Send it to every news network. Every species. Every world. Everyone needs to see what happened here tonight." The officer nodded and walked away. Within 6 hours, The galaxy would see what happened in Cargo Base 7. Within 12, nothing would ever be the same. The shy girl they overlooked until her combat. Footage went public. Part 4, the footage spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, over 900 million beings had watched the security recordings from Cargo Base 7. By the next day, that number had grown to billions. Every species, every world, every corner of the known galaxy, they watched a quiet human woman stand alone against impossible odds. They watched her take wounds meant for others. They watched her let a surrendering enemy go free. They watched her ask about the children before she collapsed, and they did not understand. On the Torvon homeworld, the great war councils gathered to study the footage. These were the mightiest warriors in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of star systems. They had defeated enemies that made the Crimson Tide look like children playing with toys. They watched Maya fight in silence. When the footage ended, an old general spoke first. He had led armies for over a century. He had seen more battles than anyone alive. "I do not understand," he said slowly. She fought as if she had already accepted death, but not for glory, not for honor, not for recognition. He paused. She accepted death for them. For people who gave her nothing but contempt, the other generals murmured in confusion. Torvin warriors fought for status, for legacy, for the eternal fame that came with great victories. Maya had fought for none of those things. She had fought for strangers who had treated her like dirt. "What kind of warrior does this?" another general asked. The old general shook his head slowly. "She is not a warrior," he said. "She is something else. Something we do not have a word for." On the Kithran academic world, scholars debated endlessly about what the footage meant. The Kithrans were the intellectuals of the galaxy. They studied behavior and psychology across all species. They had never seen anything like this. "Human protective instinct," one professor wrote in a paper that spread quickly across the academic networks. "It appears to activate. Without regard for personal safety or past grievances, the human brain simply decides to protect. Logic does not seem to be involved." The parents of the Kithran child whom Maya had protected came forward publicly. The mother could barely speak through her tears. "She learned our language," the mother said. "She learned our lullabies. While she was bleeding, while she was dying, she sang to my daughter to keep her calm. She wiped her eyes. We mocked her. We called her weak. And she sang to my baby in our own tongue while fighting for her life." The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every major species filled the Great Chamber. Humans were only a small part of galactic civilization. They had no military power, no political influence. They were often overlooked or ignored. Today, everyone was looking at them. "We need to understand what happened on Valeth 9, the council president said. Was this behavior typical for humans? Or was this individual an exception? The human ambassador stood up. She was a tall woman with gray hair and calm eyes. "You are not watching a soldier," she said simply. "You are watching a human being protecting children. Any of us would have done the same." She looked around the chamber at the confused faces of 100 different species. "That is not exceptional to us. That is just... What you do?" Silence filled the chamber. "We would all die for strangers." A Torvant representative asked in disbelief. "For people who treated you poorly?" The ambassador nodded. Without hesitation, "When there are children in danger, we do not think about ourselves. We do not calculate odds. We simply act." She sat down. The council chamber remained silent for a very long time. On Station Valeth 9, Maya woke up in the medical bay. She had been unconscious for 3 days while doctors from 6 different species worked to save her life. The first thing she saw when she opened her eyes was flowers. Hundreds of them. They covered every surface of her room. Cards and gifts and messages from beings she had never met filled the space around her bed. The second thing she saw was Voreth. He was sitting beside her bed. He had not left her side since she came out of surgery. When he saw her eyes open, he tried to speak. No words came out. His 4 hands trembled. "The children," Maya said weakly. "Are they safe?" Vorith said. "All of them. Because of you." Maya nodded and closed her eyes with relief. Vorith leaned forward. "I need to apologize to you. I called you weak. I ignored you. I treated you like you did not matter." Maya opened her eyes again. She looked at him without anger. "You were scared in that cargo bay," she said softly. "You were terrified. But when I gave you the children to protect, you did not hesitate. You held them and kept them safe while I fought." She reached out and touched his arm gently. "That is what matters now." Vorith broke down completely. Tears streamed down his gray face. He had spent his whole life trying to be strong, trying to be dominant, trying to prove his worth through force and power. This quiet human woman had shown him a different kind of strength. And now she was comforting him after everything he had done wrong. A journalist came to interview Maya later that week. The whole galaxy wanted to hear from the human woman in the footage. "Why did you do it?" the journalist asked. "Why risk everything for aliens who treated you poorly?" Maya struggled to find the right words. "They were scared," she said finally. "They were in danger. I could help. There was not really a choice to make. But they were cruel to you." Maya was quiet for a moment. "That says something about them," she said. "What I do says something about me. I would rather be kind." The journalist stared at her. "That is it? That is why you almost died?" Maya smiled weakly. "Sometimes the right thing to do is simple. That does not make it easy. But it makes it clear." The interview spread across the galaxy even faster than the original footage. And slowly, beings from every species began to look at the quiet humans among them with new eyes. The galaxy had watched one human stand alone against impossible odds. Now they were beginning to understand. She had never been alone at all. Every human carried that same quiet fire, the shy girl they overlooked until her combat footage went public. Part 5. 3 months passed since the attack on Station Velithnine. The station had changed. Everyone who lived there could feel it. Something in the air was different now. Something in the way people looked at each other. Cargo Bay 7 had become a memorial. Beings from every species came to leave tokens of gratitude. Small flowers, written notes, handmade gifts from children who had heard the story. The bay was closed for regular use now. It had become something sacred. Maya's wounds had healed, though she would carry the scars forever. Her left arm would never be as strong as it once was. She walked with a slight limp now. But she was alive. That was more than anyone expected after what she had done. The galaxy had offered her everything. Military organizations wanted to recruit her. Governments wanted to give her medals and titles. News networks offered massive payments for exclusive interviews. Universities wanted to study her. Companies wanted to use her image. Maya said no to all of them. Instead, she requested a transfer within the station. She asked to work in the Refugee Processing Center. It was a small department that most people had forgotten existed. Ships arrived there every week, carrying refugees from war zones and disaster areas. Frightened people with nothing left. Children who had lost everything. "I would like to be there when they arrive," Maya explained to the station administrator. "Someone should welcome them. Someone should make them feel safe." The administrator agreed immediately. Nobody refused Maya Chen anything anymore. Vorith became her closest friend. The Torvon who had once dismissed her now followed her everywhere. Not as a guard or a servant, but as a companion. He was learning to listen instead of shout. He was learning that strength could be quiet. "I spent my whole life trying to be the loudest voice in every room," he told her one evening. "I thought that was power. I thought that was strength." Maya smiled at him. "And now I understand that the loudest voice is often the most frightened one." He looked down at his 4 massive hands. "You never raised your voice, not once. And you were the bravest person I have ever known." Across the galaxy, things were changing too. Other species began looking at the quiet ones among them differently. The shy workers. The silent colleagues. The overlooked and ignored. Maybe they were not weak. Maybe they were simply strong in ways that nobody had thought to measure. Akitharan University established a new academic position in Maya's honor. They called it the Maya Chen Chair of Cross-Cultural Understanding. When Maya heard about it, she was deeply embarrassed. She wrote them a very polite letter asking them to choose a different name. They refused. Stories began emerging from across the galaxy. Other humans who had done similar things. A human doctor who had worked for 3 days without sleep to save an alien child. A human teacher who had protected her students from a natural disaster. A human engineer who had sacrificed his own escape pod to save a ship full of strangers. These stories had always existed. Nobody had paid attention to them before. Now everyone was watching. The Crimson Tide Raiders faced unexpected resistance wherever they went. Species that had once been easy targets were now fighting back. Not with weapons or armies, but with something more dangerous. They were fighting with the willingness to protect each other, eh? Torvin War Fleet hunted down the raiders who had attacked. Valeth 9. The fleet commander sent a message before the attack. You made an enemy of the Quiet Ones, the message said. That was your final mistake. The raiders were defeated. The survivors were brought to justice. The galaxy was a little bit safer. One evening, Maya sat alone in her quarters. She picked up the small photograph that she had kept face down for so long. For the first time in years, she looked at it. It showed a young boy with dark hair and bright eyes. Her younger brother. He had died in a raider attack when Maya was just a teenager. She had survived. He had not. She had spent her whole life since then trying to make up for it. Trying to protect others. Trying to save the ones she could not save before. I could not save you, she whispered to the photograph. I will never stop trying to save others. A knock came at her door. She placed the photograph carefully on her desk, face up this time, and went to answer it. The Kithran child from Cargo Bay 7 stood there with her parents. The little girl was holding a drawing she had made. It showed a small figure with dark hair, standing in front of much larger figures. Protecting them, Aunt Maya. The child said happily, running into Maya's arms. Maya held her close. The child's parents smiled through tears. She talks about you every day, the mother said. She wants to be like you when she grows up. Maya looked at the little girl in her arms. You do not need to be like me, she said softly. Just be kind. That is enough. The child stayed for dinner. Maya taught her human games and songs. She braided the child's hair like appendages, akin to patterns that made the little girl laugh with delight. It was a small moment. A quiet evening. Nothing that would make the news or change the galaxy. But it was everything. The next morning, a new ship arrived at the station. Refugees from a distant war zone. The docking bay was crowded with officials and workers preparing to process the arrivals. The doors opened. Frightened faces looked out at the unfamiliar station. Among them was a small alien child, clutching a ragged toy. She was alone. Her eyes were wide with terror. The crowds parted. Maya walked forward slowly. She knelt down to the child's level. She spoke in the child's language, words of comfort that she had learned for exactly this moment. Hello, she said softly. You are safe now. Would you like me to stay with you for a while? The child looked at this strange human woman with the kind eyes and the gentle voice. She did not understand everything that had happened. She did not know why she was here or what would come next, but she understood kindness. Every child in the galaxy understood kindness. She took Maya's hand. Maya smiled and led her gently into the station. The galaxy had expected humanity to prove itself. Through conquest and domination, they had looked for warriors and found something more powerful instead. They found protectors. Maya Chen never raised her voice. She never sought glory or fame. She simply stood between danger and the innocent. As humans had always done, as humans would always do, and the galaxy finally understood why the Quiet Ones were the most formidable of all. Because a human's love is quiet, but it never, ever surrenders.